All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. This is webinar number 5 in our Stay Connected weekly webinar series here at Aruba. We're a Hewlett-Packard enterprise company, and we're glad you could join us today. We know you have a lot of opportunities in the current climate to attend webinars and videos and things like that, and we know you have a lot of choices, so we appreciate you attending ours today. For those of you who have not been on this Stay Connected series in the past, my name is Anthony. I manage the webinar program here at Aruba, and as I said, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. Today we're going to talk about retail, reinventing retail, and the next round of innovation. We have Jerry Hinkle and Yona Ostebo on, and we'll get to them in just a second. For some of you, this isn't your first webinar with us on the Bright Talk platform. And I'm going to go through some key items in terms of how you can interact with us via question and answer and feedback. But again, we're talking about retail today and how your network can deliver business continuity to you and your employees. Over the last 3.5 weeks, we've talked about healthcare, education, virtual call centers, and just general business continuity and trying to adapt to meet the new challenges we're facing now. Before we get to today's webinar, a couple of notes for those who, as I said, are using Bright Talk for the first time. First, there will be a box, there is a box underneath the slide window to ask questions and submit questions and then submit feedback. So please ask your questions throughout the webinar. We're going to save them for the end, and then we'll answer them in the order in which they came. If we don't get to all the questions, or for some reason maybe the question needs some clarification, we want to reach out to you separately, we'll do that after the webinar using the email address that you provided when you registered. And of course, feedback at the end. You'll be prompted to give some feedback after the webinar. Please do so. It's a short form, and it allows us to modify these webinars. We had been doing, prior to COVID-19, bi-weekly or twice monthly webinars, and we have modified the process of how we put those together and present them to you using Bright Talk based on your feedback, so please give feedback. And also, with regard to today's topic, reinventing retail, there are some attachments and links, and you can find them in that same area underneath your slide window. So ask your questions. At the end, please give us some feedback and check out the attachments and links during the webinar or after the webinar. And that'll do it for me. So I appreciate you joining again. I'm going to hand it over to Jerry Hinkle, who is our Director of Vertical Marketing, to get us started with Reinventing Retail, the next round of innovation. Jerry, it's all yours.
Hey, thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Yes, my name is Jerry Hinkle, and I do lead vertical marketing for Aruba. And Yona and I are really happy to be with you today, and thank you for joining us. We do have a really full agenda, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump in and get started and let you know what we have in store for you today. So we're going to start by just taking a quick look backward at where retail has been. Many of you on the call probably know where you've been better than we do, but we want to just take a quick look back to level set where we want to take you today through our solution discussion. We're going to talk about some challenges that we understand many of you are undergoing, especially given the current situation we are in with the pandemic. But we'll spend most of our time together looking at innovation and Aruba solutions that align with solving the challenges you're facing right now. So let's just jump in and get going. We will obviously have a Q&A section as well, and we'll point you to some additional resources. So the journey to today has been a story of reoccurring reinvention. There's been many ups and downs for retailers over the past several decades. From doing only in-store shopping to the emergence of online shopping, retailers have had to reinvent themselves many, many times. And over the past decade, with this emergence of online shopping, many of you have looked at how to address omni-channel initiatives to make the most out of those in-store and online shopping experiences. And really recently, many of you have been focusing on providing great shopping experiences to drive loyalty and revenue, just because of the competitive nature that many retailers face from their competition. And then what happens? The COVID-19 pandemic, right? So yet again, retailers are forced to look at reinvention and how to stay viable and successful in such a challenging time. The pandemic's caused many, many issues, and not all of these issues are equal for retailers. Some retailers have actually had to expand their services or hire more staff, those that have been deemed essential businesses. But most retailers have had to deal with lost revenue, trying to keep the doors open, dealing with supply and demand challenges, losing employees because of furloughs, and not only losing them maybe temporarily, but possibly losing them permanently because they've been forced to seek out other employment just to be able to take care of their families. So retail obviously has their hands full in trying to figure out how to deal with the pandemic and how to move forward given all of the challenges. But the good news is that many of the things that you may have been focusing on before, whether that be buy online, pick up in store, or click and collect shopping, making sure your associates can address customer requests and needs immediately in the store as they're with those customers, or whether it's creating smart digital spaces within the store, such as using electronic shelf labels or understanding who's in the store, where they are in the store. Many of these use cases you may have been looking at prior to the pandemic actually are even more meaningful now that you're coming out of this challenging pandemic crisis. So we're going to take a look at many of the solutions we have with Aruba today that we think can help you, related back to many of these experiences that will help support new mandates. So to help me with that, we have Jona. He's my good friend and colleague here at Aruba, and we're going to just kind of go back and forth and jump into a lot of these solutions. And again, please ask any questions you have in the Q&A area, and then when we get towards the end, we'll address many of those questions. So Jona, the first question I'd like for us to dive into is related to how stores have been forced to keep their doors shut, who maybe cannot allow customers into their shops. How can they maybe leverage outdoor APs and the parking lot to support continuing their business?
Well, you know, I will for sure talk about that. So one of the key things is to make sure they have Wi-Fi coverage on the outside. The Wi-Fi coverage on the outside is there for several reasons. One of the reasons is for the point of sale. So they can bring the point of sale. And just one example is I went to an electronic store the other day, and I wanted to, I was hoping they were open. I wanted to buy an audio sound bar because my wife and I are actually watching more TV and movies now than we have been doing before. And they told me that it's, well, you need to buy it online and you can pick it up in store. And in that area, there was pretty crappy coverage. I was able to do it, but it was super slow. So for them, if they in the store had some outdoor Wi-Fi, I would be able to connect to the guest Wi-Fi, and I could easily, way easier order that online. Right. Second thing is for me to pay, I had to pay online. I was paying online, and the one good thing is they're extremely helpful. When I had paid everything, they would go and pick up the device in store, and they brought my car and load into the car. So there was no, and I just took back to the car, and they load in for me. So very good service with that. But besides that, if you need to buy some extra, one of the things is I need an extra cable. I couldn't buy that because they didn't have a good way of point of sale outside. So by extending also the Wi-Fi outside for point of sale, we would be able to actually do both provide Wi-Fi to me as a customer and Wi-Fi point of sale on the outside. And then there are some of the security issues. Well, some might think of it like security issues. How are we securing that? Well, one of the key things with the Aruba's architecture is that if using a controller-based architecture, the traffic is encrypted all the way from the handheld paid terminal all the way into a controller that is in the store's enclosed data center or a small IT room or whatever it should be. meaning there are no place where anyone can actually get access to that data. That's a key thing. The other thing is, when you're pulling cables to the outside, you have to make sure that you're securing those ports. So with Aruba APs, all of our APs, they have a TPM chip. So what we would do then, we will enable authentication on the wired port as well, so that when you plug in the AP, it will be authenticated using the ETLS certificate stored in the TPM chip. And if anyone is disconnecting that and connecting something else, they will never be able to connect to it unless it is a device that is successfully authenticated, and that requires authentication back to the backend system. So we are securing both the wired ports, we are securing the link. If there has to be a switch or a power source and a light pole or whatever it should be, all the traffic that goes through there is secure. That's a key thing with the Aruba's architecture.
So Jonna, why don't we do a quick poll here and just see. Hopefully I can do this out there, and hopefully our audience is seeing the poll. Asking them about who is actually implementing.
Yeah, Jerry, I can see the poll.
Okay, awesome. Who is actually implementing buy online, pick up in store services? So your choices are you're not offering it right now, but you're considering offering it. You're offering maybe at some locations, or you offer it across all of your locations. So we'll give you just another few seconds here to answer that poll.
Hey, and Jerry, I wanted to address something really quick. We had somebody come through and ask a question about if there was a way to improve the voice quality on one of the presenters. So I just want to let you know, if you're having difficulties with the audio, I'm also monitoring it on a separate laptop here. It may be your connection on your end, and unfortunately that does happen from time to time. If it doesn't improve, unfortunately we ask you to log out and then log back in. It usually just takes about 10 to 15 seconds. And like I said, my preference would be not to have you do that, but it may be part of the connection of the stream that you've grabbed. So I apologize for that, but would invite you to do that. Sorry, Jerry, go ahead.
No worries. I'm going to stop the voting now. And so it looks like 85% of the audience does not offer buy online, pick up in store today. So that's just a great thing for all of you to think about. If you're knowing that many of you are in the IT or the networking area of your organizations, maybe that's something you can talk to store operators about, your marketing departments, but really extending your indoor network to outside is not too difficult. And as Jonna said, it still ensures PCI compliance and secure connectivity and that reliable point of sale system connections that you want to be able to get people in and out of their transaction as quickly as you can. So next slide.
I just want to,
sure.
So Jerry, when you're leaving that, I just want to mention a quick example. One of the major stadiums here in the U.S., they were nervous about how will the ticketing work together with fans on Wi-Fi on the outdoor before people are entering the stadium. And we said that there's no problem with that. We trust that this will be working. They were nervous, and the first couple of games when this stadium was new, they did not enable wireless guest network on the outside because they were afraid of the ticketing machines won't get enough capacity. And in that case, the ticketing machine is just like the point of sale in a store. What we will do in those kind of scenarios is we're using priority on the traffic. So we will enable prioritization of traffic that goes to and from the point of sale, and they can also be voice over the mobile handsets, Theatra handsets, Zebra handsets, whatever it should be. So we are prioritizing those business critical applications over the guest traffic to make sure that it's a good user experience for the guest, but also the key traffic is prioritized.
Yeah, thank you for that, that additional information. The bottom line is those outdoor APs can handle quite a bit of capacity and density as well. So we don't want our customers to think that they're going to sacrifice being able to handle those transactions at the same time they're allowing those guests securely onto the network. So let's talk a little bit about, I live in Colorado, and Colorado is going to open up additional retail businesses this Friday, as a matter of fact. And we're hoping that many retailers are going to experience some of those same initiatives as we get out of the pandemic. So let's assume we're getting people into the store, and we want to be able to support frictionless transactions and guest Wi-Fi. One of the most important things that you can do as a business is get shoppers onto your network. That provides a lot of cool additional use cases and intelligence you can take advantage of. So, let's talk a little bit about Aruba Passpoint and what that means and how that helps get shoppers and their customers onto the network. So can you talk us through this for a few minutes?
Sure. So Aruba Passpoint is, actually Passpoint is a technology name defined by the Wi-Fi Alliance. So we are not defining Passpoint as a name of the technology. But Aruba has a service on top of that's enabling Passpoint. And my little drawing here, basically what Passpoint is doing is two things. The whole architecture is the Wi-Fi you have in the store would say, I have Passpoint. Your phone will then send a request saying, which carriers do you support? And the access point will send a list of carriers, and here might be T-Mobile, Sprint, AT&T, Verizon, and so on, and sends a list of the carrier supports. If your phone has a Passpoint profile installed from your carrier, it will actually send that, it will start an authentication based on the Passpoint, and you don't need to think about which SSID. All of that is just happening automatically in the background. And it will send it to the carrier, and most of the time it goes through a broker in between. The challenge is if you're going to have tens of thousands of stores around in the U.S. that want to use Passpoint, the carrier will not prioritize to have a one-on-one relationship with all those retailers. So what we have been doing, we have established a broker service called AirPass at Aruba. So basically what we are doing, we're handling all of the negotiation with the carriers. So the only thing you as a retailer have to do is to buy the service from Aruba. We are then configuring, we will help you get this configured on your network. Your authentication request goes to Aruba's cloud service. From there, we'll, based on what is the carrier, we will send it to either it's AT&T or Verizon or whoever it should be, and the client will automatically be connected to the wireless network. So a totally seamless wireless connection when you're entering the store.
And it's a great, from a shopper's perspective, there's one store in the city that I live in, and if you're in a certain area of that store, you have no connectivity, you have no service, and to be able to just seamlessly move from my cellular connection to the store Wi-Fi, I mean, what a great experience for shoppers. And again, we'll talk you through in the next few slides here some of the intelligence you'll be able to derive from them being on your network, and then how you can leverage that intelligence to help support maybe social distancing mandates that you're going to have to keep your eyes on. There is, in the attachments and links area, there will be a document there, hopefully, that you will see that's directly about AirPass. So I encourage you to take a look at that document if you're interested in what this is all about and how you can participate in enabling this on your network. Another just quick use case that I think is really important right now, and it all is dependent upon great Wi-Fi as the foundation to enable this experience, is just the idea of shoppers being able to use their phone for essentially buying everything they need to buy in the store and not even touching a register. So I'm sure many of you, if you're not doing this at your stores right now, maybe have experienced this as a shopper, but you walk in, you have the app open for the store, you scan items as you go through the store, putting them into your grocery cart or whatever carts you might have there. You pay through the app with your saved credit card information, and you leave the store with a QR code. And really the only thing you're touching as you're going through the store is the cart and the items you're putting into your cart. Hopefully you're not touching everything else, but it really helps support this frictionless shopping idea. And it is not possible, or it's likely less possible, if you don't have great Wi-Fi. I guess you could depend on cellular or other service, but Wi-Fi is so critical to enabling this experience to happen. And my experience has been is my phone as the scanner actually works better than the register scanner, so it even makes it that much nicer. So next topic we want to talk a little bit about is, now that you have people in the store, how do you convert that network traffic to some sort of intelligence that helps you enable not only knowing who your shoppers are, but what are they doing in the store, and how far apart are they, and all of that, those types of things that you may want to know. So, Yona, can you talk us a little bit about Wi-Fi analytics? And I think this is a screen possibly from Central. Is that right?
That is correct. So there are two levels, I would say, of Wi-Fi analytics. So what we have in Central is a fairly basic. It's covering the most critical needs. We call it presence analytics. We do analytics based on how many people are entering an area. That might be a store, or it might be an access point that is close to the door. So we're looking at how many people are actually stopping in front of the window of the door or of the store, or how many people or device are we seeing stopping near the store. And then we're seeing that based on how many stopping, how many people are actually entering the store. So we're defining zones. We can look at analytics based on that and give you some basic analytics on how many people are present in different areas. One example that we use there with the retailer, this is in relation to Christmas, where they have a pallet of soda pretty close to, well, just inside of the main door. And during Christmas, those big manufacturers of soda, they have some pretty impressive commercials going on TV. And what they did, they put up a TV in relation to that pallet of soda. And they want to see, are we able to influence people to buy more of this product right now? And then they could see the presence analytics, how much people are stopping actually to watch that the video going on that screen. And then they can see for how long are they stopping, and also how many are just going past, and is this adding sale. So it's just one simple way of using analytics to see how effective marketing is. The next thing is that with our Aruba products, you can integrate with our third-party analytics partners like Skyfi and Purple and iLabs and so on. What we are doing then is we're configuring the APs to send location data to ALE. ALE is analyzing those data and sending it in a standardized format to these partners. And they're taking the data we have standardized for them, and they are again analyzing that data even more, where they are looking into what kind of MAC address do I have, what kind of devices do I have, where do I see most people walking, and when during the day are they walking here? Am I seeing them walking down the aisle to the milk and bread first, or are they walking a different route? So, and is it different routes depending on what time of day it is, and so on? They're bringing all those kind of analytics to enhance the value of the user for the retailer. Not only how they are, what they're buying or how much they're selling, but you will get way more information how to optimize the store.
Yeah, there's some really interesting things you can do with and you see here that it's either known or anonymous users, right? Depending upon if they're using your app and what you require of them to get on your network. But once they're on there, as Jonas said, there's so many things you can look at, from traffic flow patterns to how many users are in a specific area, and again, coming out of the pandemic, do you have to have more intelligence about density of people in specific areas, or do you want to close down certain doors into your building to like filter people through a certain door so you can track them better? Again, to just be able to keep your doors open and support the social distancing mandates you're probably going to have to support over the next few months. But on top of that, right, it can give you a lot of intelligence about how to drive revenue and upsell if you know what they're interested in, and you can connect it back to your loyalty programs. So there's a really powerful applications related to people being on your network and what you can glean from that. So next one we want to share with you is, you have people in the store now, and you want to get them in and out fairly quickly, right? Especially if you're going to be limited on how many people you can have in your facility at one time, and I know some states are looking at that. The idea is that you help them shop, they find what they want, they do their transaction, and they leave quickly without any problems. And it means that your applications need to be performing at their optimal level. So, Jona, can you tell us a little bit about User Experience Insight and what its purpose is and how it can help our retail stores?
For sure. So the Aruba UXI sensor is a unique product that came from an acquisition we did a couple of years ago. And what they built is basically a small sensor. It looks like an access point, but it's very different on the inside. Instead of using a traditional radio chip like we're using on access point, they picked to use the Wi-Fi chip from that are typically being used in laptops or mobile devices like mobile phones and so on. The reason for that is the user experience with different chips is totally different. If they built based on the chip that we're using on access points, the data they're getting is based on how access points are communicating, how the software drivers are working for access points and so on. So when they went the other direction, they can simulate how this works from the end user's point of view. And what's happening is that device will be placed in your location, and it's basically running a circle based on the number of tests you are configuring to do. You might give it a task of doing 10 different tests. It might be connected to your point of sale network first and run a test that it can reach the point of sale server. It might be able to check that it can reach your backend database and so on. And then disconnect from the point of sale network. Then it connects to the guest network, and then it's going through your Captain Portal. If there's a Captain Portal, it might test access to the web shop for a customer to simulate to be a customer. And it might try to go through a flow of trying to do a purchase and so on, and then it might also go and check with a different website. It might go to box.com or a different retail site. There's a lot of different options you can configure, and it's all up to you. And a key thing for customer is often DNS and DHCP. If your DNS is slow, the customer will think that your Wi-Fi is slow. So it's going through and testing all of this again and again and again. And when it's done doing testing, it's starting again based on the timing and the scheduling you have set it to do. And so one of the things you can think of is if this is running 24/7, that means that when you're coming to the store in the morning, this is already tested that your network is working. You don't need to take the risk or suddenly be there and when you're opening that you're not able to get things going. One example is for one of our atmosphere events, we had a DNS DHCP server, a Linux server that's running handling that for our attendees, about 2,000 people. We were using our UXI sensor for our demo, but our UXI sensor was telling us there's something going on with the server, and we were checking with the networking team, and the networking team was saying, no, we don't have any issues. We just had a look here. It's showing a higher and higher delay on DHCP, and it's also showing slower and slower DNS. They said, no, my Linux box is fine. Well, 30 minutes after, that Linux box crashed. Was this something that could have been prevented by restarting a service or something like that? That's just examples of where we are detecting things that might affect the stability of your store, the operation of your store, and also the customer experience.
Yeah, it's almost like you have a 24/7 person or associate or shopper just continually testing those key systems. And what we're not showing here is just how simple and easy the interface is to understand. I mean, it's literally green happy faces or red sad faces. So if you have not been exposed to User Experience Insight, again, we have an attachment and some resources for you to take a look at. But a really great tool to help ensure a great associate and shopper experience. So the next one, I'll be very brief on my intro here because I want to be sure we can get through the rest of the content. But this is really exciting, and the ideas around creating smart spaces and deploying IoT and being able to leverage your network to support those IoT-enabled areas. So, Yona, tell us a little bit about the AP as an IoT gateway, if you will, and a couple of use cases that retailers might be interested in and how this works.
Sure. So before we diving straight into that, I want to mention some of the challenges that retailers are seeing, because a lot of the IoT equipment is already in use in retail. There might be electronic shelf labels already out there. If you have electronic shelf labels, you need to have lots of proprietary devices that you have deployed around the store that needs cabling. The cost of cabling is high. The other thing is you need switch ports for it. That costs money. You need to have security, because to have a lot of small IoT devices with low security on it, that's not a good thing for your store, and it might also be a risk for your PCI compliance, which you don't want to do. The other thing is IoT devices like temperature sensors and so on. There are temperature sensors in the fridges for milk and meat and the freezer and so on. All those places, there are sensors that you need to do to monitor. The next thing is beacons, for those who are using beacons for retail, for customer interaction. Those are just some few examples of things we can interact with. And so one example that we have been doing, we have been integrating with several different vendors on Bluetooth. And one thing is, of course, our beacons, that there's Aruba products, but also like in Ocean, where we're using Bluetooth to communicate with BLE-based switches. Those are light switches that are harvesting energy from the click, so no battery, nothing. It's just double-sided tape hang on the wall, and you have a switch connected. And the temperature sensor the same way. They're actually harvesting energy from the light, and based on that, they're sending back information like temperature, light, and motion, all those kind of things, without even having a battery connected to it. The next thing is for electronic shelf labels. Those are being used in several stores. We actually see more of it in Europe than in the US yet, but the electronic shelf labels, almost every single one of them, they're using proprietary frequencies. And a lot of them have proprietary transmitters connected. So one example of the vendors I worked with, their proprietary transmitter was a Raspberry Pi microcomputer that were running Linux, and they had a small add-on port for their proprietary 900 megahertz transmitter. There was no security at all. So then if you think about how you can secure that Raspberry Pi that you have several of around the new store, running Linux that is not being patched, that's big risk, and that's a big risk for the PCI compliance. But what we are doing, we are plugging a USB device into our AP, and we're using and that USB device will then be transmitting and having a small proprietary radio device, either 2.4 gigahertz or 900 megahertz. That doesn't matter. So by doing that, we're using the cabling going back to the AP. Everything is already secured. The AP is on a secured port back to your switch. So you're saving switch ports, you're saving cabling, and you're also monitoring that your system is up running all the time. And you're just configuring your wireless everything this needs to be forwarded to my inventory system or my point of sale system that's managing those prices. So when you're then going on a sale, it's just one setting on the backend system you have and saying go on sale, or these are products going on sale this week, and all the price hikes are changing right away. So saving a lot of time and become way more efficient instead of walking around with paper sticker and change the price on hundreds of products every week.
So Jonna, just to summarize a little bit there, again, our APs, our 500 series APs have built-in hardware infrastructure inside the AP for Bluetooth 5, Zigbee, but we can, through the USB port on them, and also back to the 300 series with the USB port, we can plug in a dongle to be able to speak the language, if you will, of some of these IoT vendor solutions to enable those use cases without a retailer having to deploy an additional network infrastructure to support them, correct? So they're just leveraging the Aruba network to support these use cases.
That is correct. So they're using the infrastructure that's already out there, and also they're saving switch ports, and they are saving money. Because switch ports are expensive. And the last thing to me that is the really critical part is the security. How do you secure those IoT devices? When you're using them built into the AP, there is security taken care of already.
Yeah, it's a great point. And obviously on this slide, we're showing just some of our partners that we work with that might be really interesting to retailers, but we have a wide variety of ecosystem partners that, from door locks to, Zebra devices, right, Theatro. So we work with a lot of different third-party vendors to enable leveraging the Aruba network as that IoT gateway, if you will, to enable and support the IoT platform you're deploying. Okay, so we also want to talk about just managing the network, and knowing that many of you might be looking after numerous stores across a distributed geographical area. So we'd love to just spend a couple of minutes, Jonna, on Aruba Central and how maybe it can help IT managers have visibility and also manage the networks even if they're not near that store. So can you talk just a little bit about some of the features in Central?
Sure. So a couple of things is Central is built to be fulfilling the needs. Either you have one AP per store, or if you need several APs per store. Central is also handling managing SD-WAN for those that need more complexity, like VPN and so on, and also switch management. So you will be managing both your wireless access point, your Aruba OS switches, and your branch gateways, all from one central UI. And if you have several sites, you can create policies or configuration, and they will be inherited down to all of the sites. That means you don't need to have, to manage each store individually. You're centralizing it and doing as streamlined as possible.
And then we talked a little bit about branch and what solutions we have to support a branch deployment.
Sure. So with branch, there are several ways of doing that. There are what we are calling micro branch or remote AP. That's just one AP and location. We see a lot of people that are using that now in this situation where they are working from home. That one AP will it's connected at your home or in a small store, and it's coming up just like if you are in the main building or in the main headquarters. The other thing is to use our branch gateway. So typically that could be in a larger store where you're having, with the branch gateway, you can have several switches behind it. You can have several APs behind it. So then the whole branch gateway becomes the VPN connectivity between your headquarter and the branch. And there you can then make decisions. What do I want to do with my guest traffic and my employee traffic? you might force all the employee traffic to go via the headquarters and back out on the internet. Or you can say that I want to force traffic that goes to our corporate sources. That will go back to the headquarters. But if my staff is actually checking out internet prices with our competitors, that should go straight out from the local store and not go through the headquarters. Or if you have guest traffic should not go back to the headquarters, but should be reached out locally. And last thing we can do is integrate with our partners in security. We're saying that we will actually force the traffic through a cloud-based firewall if that is needed as well from one of our partners.
So it's not explicitly called out on this slide, Yona, but I think one of the things that is really important to just reemphasize again is just the security profiles and policies that are consistent from headquarters to the factory, to the store, to the neighborhood store, right, just through this architecture. They don't really have to think about creating different profiles based on where someone is or where a device is, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to do one more poll here, and then we're going to open up to Q&A. So let me get this poll started. So the question is with relation to social distancing mandates, is your organization asking IT to provide potential solutions to support the mandates, or has your parent organization not reached out to IT yet to discuss solutions? So we're just curious on how much you're being pulled into the fold of supporting the post-pandemic or the transition from social distancing to recovery. So we'll give you a few more seconds here to answer. So are you being asked to provide solutions to support mandates, or no one's reached out to you yet?
Hey, Jerry, while the folks get a chance to respond to the poll question, I just want to let them know we have some really good questions coming up in the Q&A. And for Yona in particular, if you get a chance to look at the questions from the audience real quick, some of them get pretty technical. So maybe there'll be some that we have to answer directly after the webinar because it might get a little bit too technical. But Yona, take a look into that Q&A section from the audience prior to us opening up the Q&A section. But you still have time to ask your questions, so please do so. Thanks, Jerry.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'm going to stop it here in 5 seconds, so we'll just give it a couple more. So this is 77% are being asked to provide potential solutions to support mandates. So we hope that we gave you some ideas. Some might be a longer runway to put into motion, but many of them should be fairly quick to enable. So 70, now I have 72%. So thank you for answering that poll. So let's jump to some of the questions. Anthony, you want to help us with this? What should we answer?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to admit ahead of time, my acronym effectiveness is maybe not what it used to be, or at least not on the topic of retail and the network solutions that can support it. So I'll ask maybe for Yona to help me out here. But the first question is, in a world that is trying to avoid human-to-human contact, do we anticipate a partnership with POS and/or Square for touchless transactions in-store purchasing? So essentially, is Aruba looking to partner with Square or a company like it for the touchless transaction in-store purchasing?
So
and that's for Jerry or Yona, yeah.
Jerry, do you have something small to say?
No, I'm not sure if we're talking to Square, but if we talk about the first use case of frictionless shopping that we shared earlier, and the idea of how important a mobile app is, and being able to scan with your phone, put your credit card into the app and leave, that doesn't require a lot of partnerships. But Yona, do you know of any new partnerships we're working on?
What I would say is, first of all, the access point is normally not on the desk. So what we are doing, we are providing connectivity to the Square, if that is connected to your point of sale, or it is a Square desktop solution with the iPad or whatever you're using. We are providing connectivity for those devices. But we will not be able to use to have any, well, it wouldn't make sense for us to have any near field devices in our access point because of that. That's also said, there are a lot of limitations. So like if you're using an Apple iPhone and trying to pay touchless, the only way you can pay touchless with an iPhone is using Apple Pay. Because Apple Pay is not supporting Google Pay and so on. They've locked down the only one they want to support on Apple is actually Apple Pay. So the NFC chip on an iPhone is only being used for Apple Pay.
Okay. Okay, and I should remind both Jerry and Yona that if it looks like it's a question that requires us to go back and talk to some folks in different groups here at Aruba, you could definitely just say that, and we'll follow up. I have the email address at the question of the person who asked the question based on the registration, so we can always follow up directly afterwards. So that's an option. Here's another question. Does the solution, do the solutions we're talking about apply to mall-based retail? So like just like in a regular mall, shopping mall.
I would say yes. It doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah, the one caveat, I totally agree with Yona. Usually malls are owned by like a real estate property, right? And it kind of depends on if you're renting or leasing your network connectivity from that mall entity and what the capabilities they allowed you to deploy as far as outdoor AP. So for example, if you're a large clothing entity, right, and you're usually located in many malls, you may have many doors that come into your particular store that's on the end of the mall. I think it kind of depends on what the rules are for that property building and can you deploy an outdoor AP. But there's nothing in our technology and our solutions that would prevent that from happening. I think it's more based on policies and guidelines in the building where you're located.
Sure. Okay. Thanks for that, Jerry and Yona. We have a few more that we wanted to get through, and here's my first. Here I am being tested on my acronym knowledge. Are you developing UWB, which I think is ultra-wideband solutions that could locate buyers outside precisely with the AP plus the UWB anchor and the customer car or mobile phone had UWB? So there's I think that's what that means, correct? Is ultra-wideband?
That's correct. And ultra-wideband is not available in many phones, but Apple added that in, well, they added the chip in it from iPhone 11, I think. And the chip is there, but they didn't talk much about it, and it's not available to do much with it yet. We don't see the need for that in this use case. So ultra-wideband is typically for the way we are looking at it is we need to handle more than one or two people. We need to be able to handle a crowd outside of a store or at the mall or at a big parking lot. So we are not developing anything with ultra-wideband for now. And we are using other kind of location technologies to be able to help finding where the user is and so on, using either beacon-based or something else.
Okay. Thanks. And again, if the question, the way I'm asking it, is not the way you intended it, please just resubmit and clarify, and we'll see if we can follow up with you afterward to get you the answer that you need. Here's one, and an acronym I'll need you to help me with, Yona. Differences between the capabilities of ALE and Central for location analytics. And then a follow-up question is, are all features in ALE supported in Central? And what about streaming APIs? So there's like 3 questions nested into one.
It is 3 questions in one. And ALE have typically been based on the controller-based architecture with Aruba, where we are forwarding RTLS and AMON data from our wireless access point and controllers to ALE for location analytics. And from there, we are sending it over, we're forwarding it to the third-party partners we have. While Central have a different way of dealing with this, we cannot send RTLS to Central, and we cannot send AMON to Central either. So what we are doing with on Central is we have added streaming APIs with location data in Central now. That is sending basically the same location data, but they need to be they need to be computed different on the partner side. But partners like Skyfi and ALabs, they are either they are working on or they are already supporting both location methods.
Sure. Okay, this is an easy one, and I can answer it, so it must be easy. Here's one from an Aruba employee who's asking me if they can get the recording and the slide deck for the presentation. Absolutely, reach out to me directly through the company directory, and we can get you the slide deck. The recording is available for others. You can come right back to the same URL you used to come and view this one, and it'll be available on demand right about an hour after the event. So thanks for that question. Just reach out to me directly if you're an Aruba employee. We do have a few that come on to watch to learn more about our solutions, so I appreciate that. Here's one. How do I learn about the licensing of AirPass subscription today? So the question is, how do I learn about the licensing of AirPass subscriptions today?
The easiest part there would be to reach out to your account manager, and that account manager will be able to get help with licensing and subscription on AirPass. AirPass is a fairly new product that we just launched about a month ago, so we are still in the pilot for it, but we've been running several incident pilots already for a while. Some of the stadiums around the U.S. are running pilots of AirPass today.
Perfect. Yeah, and if you're interested in learning more, definitely reach out to a partner or an account manager to learn more about what we're talking about here today. Here's one. Could I use the AP as a, this is a shortened word, I'm sure, LORA, capital L, small o, capital R, small a. Could I use the AP as a LORA GW, for instance? You have to know what that means.
Yes, so it's a long-range gateway. So LoRa is a technology that is well, it's patented from Semtech, and there are some ecosystems on IoT devices that are supporting the same. We do not have any radio built into our access point to support LoRa, and we have not built any architecture for that either that we're planning to do. The one thing is, with our architecture having USB port, we could, if there's a business need for this, we could then easily use a USB port and plug in a LoRa gateway that is, if there's anyone making a USB port for it. And then it could be, our AP will be able to forward and become a LoRa gateway. But that is not something we have. When we are looking into which IoT partners we pick, we typically work with based on business use case, and we are picking based on the business needs. And when we're going through it, we will not just add a long list of saying these are all partners we trust. Every single vendor, we're going through and doing full QA and documentation of it to make sure that we can support it as well. So you will not see that suddenly adding several hundred IoT partners out there. It will be based on need and based on what makes sense in an enterprise use case.
Fantastic. Just a couple of questions. I know we're coming to the end of our time here. Briefly, are your devices capable of having a mobile SIM for back-end network connectivity? Are your devices capable of having a mobile SIM for back-end network connectivity?
Yes, our APs cannot have a SIM card directly to it, but our APs all have USB ports. We can plug in a USB LT modem. Also, our 9000 series controller, we have a version that's coming out right now with SIM card.
Perfect. And I think you mentioned
9004 SIM.
Yeah. No, thanks, Yona. And I think you mentioned RTLS not too long ago in another question, so let me know if this is repetitive or you already answered this. The question was, when do you see ultra-wideband UWB RTLS solutions being deployed by Aruba? And this is more of a future-looking question, so if this is one we need to take in a follow-up to the person who asked it, just let me know.
Yeah, I think I don't have anything on that, something we've prioritized. That might be something that Onno can say something about where that will be in the future.
Okay, so maybe we reach out to him and check to see, but we'll follow up with the person who asked that question. I'll mark it as answered here, but we will follow up. And then somebody asked for a copy of the presentation. Yeah, definitely just reach out to me, Byron, at HPE, and I'll get you a copy. So that'll close our Q&A. Jerry or Yona, did you have a final comment in brief for those who attended today?
Yeah, so just, we love our technology. We think we have great solutions that can help you. But just, sometimes it's nice to revisit the past. And I think in a time when we're trying to figure out what does it look like on the other side of this pandemic or everything we're going through right now, it's always good to go back to the basics of knowing who your customers are, your loyal customers, and do you have an app that will help support their shopping and their interest in the products you're selling? Do you have a way to call them? I mean, maybe it's just picking up the phone and giving them a call to let them know their favorite products are in, and being able to schedule a personalized shopping experience. So although we really love our solutions and we know that they can help you, don't forget those high-touch, old-time services, if you will, of where you actually knew someone by name and you could give them a call and invite them to come in for a personalized shopping experience. I am not the best shopper, so I would love a service like this for some places that I like to go. If they knew what I liked and they said, come on in tomorrow and we'll have it ready for you to try on, so you can try on the clothing you want and you can leave, and it'll help again support those mandates as we come out of the pandemic. And then just closing, just a reminder that we have various solutions and assets for you that are in the webinar here and also part of the PDF file. And most importantly, we know this is a difficult time for many of you. We are your strategic partner. We want to do what you need us to do to help you. So please talk to your account manager and let us know what you need, and we'll make it work for you. And I'll just close by saying stay safe and stay connected. And again, reach out to us if you need anything. We're here to help you.
Hey, Jerry, thanks a lot. I appreciate it, and Yona as well. This is our 5th in the weekly Stay Connected webinar series on business continuity. We invite you to visit the ArubaNetworks.com homepage at ArubaNetworks.com. Scroll to the bottom, and then you click on the webinars link in the menu at the bottom of the page. It's going to take you to the page where past webinars are available on demand, or you can register for future webinars. We have more Stay Connected webinars coming up. And of course, some of you have done it already. Feedback. You'll be prompted to rate the webinar. Let us know why you rated us, what you did in a comment box. Go ahead and do that. We appreciate it, and it helps us improve these each time out. Thanks to Jerry and Yona. We also want to thank you. Like I said at the beginning, I know there are a lot of webinars out there that you can attend and are probably registered for, and of course, we appreciate you taking the time to attend ours. That's going to conclude today's webinar on retail. Until next time, my name's Anthony. Have a great rest of your day.